Hello, everyone, and welcome to Quad Radio. I'm Rodney Tomlin. That's Digital Dave, and that was Ken Hill. Now he's back. And, of course, we've got our first edition of this 2018 preview coming up here on Quad Radio. And just want to welcome everybody out, including David Claus and, of course, the ever withering away Ken Hill. Ken, did you lose more weight this winter? What's going on there, man?
No, I'm fat as a tick.
Oh, are you? I hear you're going to be a grandpa, too, man. I think that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, I got to work on my grandpa belly.
There you go.
He has passed down the need-to-know skills to the kids.
I'm sure he has.
I guess the videos that sent Cody worked.
Probably filmed right there in that particular room you're in, huh? 1970. Oh my! Chicka bow wow. Where?
Well, that could be a country scene. It's brown chicken, brown cow.
If I'm in Georgia, don't say that stuff too loud.
So you are in Georgia. I read on social media, I believe, Ken, that you are actually where? In Thompson, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, I was there this morning. I'm where am I at? Black Shears. It's
Blackshear. That's where the sprint enduro is going to be.
Yeah, I got to shoot Grant Baylor and Stu Baylor tomorrow, and anybody else I can wrangle into a photo shoot. And then I'll shoot a little bit Saturday, and then Hunter Maddox got his bullets. Okay. Then I got to go back to HRD and shoot the JCR team with Bollinger and all, and then I'm off to Florida finally.
Nice, very nice. And so the winter has been nice to you, I guess, huh?
Yeah, it killed plenty of deer.
That's good. I seen that you actually had a deer at your back door. Is that the case just a few days ago?
Yeah, it was the front door. I don't know if it was just trying to get out of the ice or it was coming up to check to see how his dad's mount turned out.
Which I'm sure turned out pretty nice.
You deer bully.
Could you imagine a deer looking in the window and there's just all Buckhead. He's probably like, "Hi, Uncle Fred," and there's Cousin John.
He thought it was a family reunion.
That's downstairs in the freezer.
Well, that's good, man. A lot of good changes for you coming up, man. I know that's something I've been anticipating for a lot of people, and changes also we saw late in the season for you, Digital Dave, man.
It's 7 o'clock.
You took on some pretty big, some pretty different shoes and some pretty big shoes there at the latter part of 2017, man.
Yeah, 19 years, change was inevitable, and it was a good time to make a change. I needed it. It was good for my soul and my spirit, so we made the change happen, and I've been real happy ever since.
Well, it's certainly opened the way up there for Ken. No pressure, nobody to fight with out there for the good shots. But
Ken and I weren't the ones fighting.
I know.
Ken and I always had a good respect, other than our first weekend when I was a bully.
Now he looks back on that and goes, "That crazy SOB was probably armed that day," and you would be right.
I want to hear that story before we dive into anything preview-ish. I want to know what that story was about, man.
I just questioned why he was out there.
Oh, yeah. I'm walking down the trail looking for a spot to shoot the youth, the 2005 or 4, the youth ATV race. I seen Dave down a couple hundred yards from me, so I'm taking pictures. And back then, I used to just walk the track backwards, shoot, walk, and then I'd end up at the finish. And I got near him, and he's like, "Who are you shooting for?" And I think I gave him some bullshit answer like, "None of your business." And he went into his prepared speech, and I just put the camera down and told him, I got a job to do here, and sure so it and sell pictures. You go your way, I go mine, will be good. And next couple rounds, we kind of looked at each other a little funny, and I kept my eye on him. And then when he realized I wasn't out there to, take, that's about what it was. Trying to sell pictures. But even today, that's not my job. We just hit it off and been friends ever since.
That's right.
And when he bailed on me, last year, he was my ultimate backup. I knew that if I screwed up or a camera go down, I could always count on running to Dave's trailer and getting a picture to take care of things. Now I'm screwed.
No, you can still come to me. I'll bring my camera every now and then. I'll run out and fill for you, man.
Right. Sunday afternoon at 2:00, he's packed up.
No, I'm not. I can't leave till after the race is complete. So 4:00, I can't even pull out. But I might be.
I'll make sure I get pictures of Dave pulling out.
Time coded, of course.
First time.
Well, it sounds like I'm sure that. Wow, it sounds like you guys have developed a great relationship. The change, like we say, all of our changes. I've got a lot of changes going on in my life and in things in my end, which is allowing me the opportunity. I know I've said it so many times, but since 2012, I'll have the opportunity to dedicate the time that I've wanted to this particular project, which is kind of close to me, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to the new season as well. And wow. Coming up, we're going to talk, I guess, GNCC this time, guys, and then we'll have some ATV motocross we'll talk about. We'll talk some side-by-side stuff, ATV, GNCC, and side-by-side stuff. And I know, Ken, you've been down. Uh-oh. What's going on outside your door, Ken?
Oh, I just going to clean my gun. I'm talking to you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm glad.
I'd never do something like that. I don't have any guns.
No, I didn't. No, not at all.
It gave them all away.
But
one bullet at a time.
So, looking at the upcoming season, as far as change, what kind of changes does anybody note coming up? There's a couple of changes that one that I can think of in particular. I talked to Bryson Neal. I think that he has a little different program this year. Aside from that, I know Walker's got a little bit different deal on his side of thing. I think he's got some new tires. I think he's gone to the GBC tires.
Yes.
I haven't heard a whole lot more out of anyone else at this particular time as far as change. I think the programs are pretty much remaining pretty much the same, it seems like.
I know that Walker went to GBC. Tracy Pickens went to GBC. Team UXC went to CST, and that's about all I know right now.
So,
as far as big changes,
right? So, and with Bryson, I know that he's back to kind of like that familiar program. Not a lot of changes in his program as far as the structure of it and stuff. He just won't be working out of the coastal rig. I don't think is what my understanding of that is. But a lot of the same things are still implemented into his program as far as bike parts and sponsors and things like that, from what I understand.
You got me.
I haven't seen his newer bike or new quad, so it's a guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. And Ken, as far as you're down south, I know I've seen a lot of the two-wheel guys. You've been shooting any of the four-wheel guys yet, man?
Haven't seen any of them.
Haven't seen us. I don't think if you keep clicking that gun, you're going to see a lot of them either.
Yeah. I'm supposed to be down in Florida next week to shoot Weenan, Fowler, and Johnny Gallagher. So, even if I see something new, I can't say anything.
Right.
But other than the normal stuff, the tire companies, switching around tire companies. I know they were always waiting on a last-minute sponsor or two to give them the go-ahead, but, they don't tell me who.
Now, do we know where, oh, goodness, I'm drawing a little blank on me right now. Hunter Hart's going to be? Is he going to stay in XC2?
He is going to stay in XC2. I did get confirmation from his mother there. I thought that he might be leaning towards the XC1 class, but I might have been mistaking him for Devin Feehan. I'm not real sure in that department. But regardless where either one of them stay, they're going to be a threat for podiums and even overalls if they are in XC2 or either one of them go forward. But from what I understand, Hunter was confirmed to me. If I read that right, Amy said he will be staying in the XC2.
He needs to have a good, clean year. Last year he had a lot of bad luck with his machine and just a couple DNFs. So he needs to have a good, clean year, and then he's probably really ready to make the jump up to XC1.
Yeah, he is a little young. That's one thing. I don't think people realize the step up from XC2 to XC1. And I think that even Walker can probably attest to that. Racing from the second row might have been a little bit deceiving for him once he got out there and started racing head-to-head with those guys.
That's what they all say.
It's definitely different. You know, you not only, if you don't get a good start in XC2, you got to get through your class, then you got to get through the XC1 class if you want to make a run for the top spots.
Yeah, and timing, you know, I mean, from that second row, I don't know, it always at times seems to play a little bit of an advantage, or at least early in the race. And if you can maintain that pace once you get up there, then it can pay huge dividends, which we saw Walker Fowler achieve, you know, whenever he was running the XC2 class and a few other guys. But speaking of Walker, man, I mean, you know, that whole thing about Walker on fire. I mean, Walker caught on fire like, what, 4 years ago or something like that. You know, he's got 3 championships under his belt. It's almost a fourth one. I mean, if you would look back to the last race that Chris Borich won, you know, what was it, 2000 whatever, 14 I think it was. But, you know, you look back to that season, Walker was on fire. He caught fire that year, and he hasn't slowed down any. I mean, you look back at this past season, nearly a perfect year. I mean, that one day in the Indiana mud when, I mean, fate just took over that particular day. Johnny Gallagher got his first win. And, I mean, like Walker said, you know, if somebody's going to ruin your perfect season, that was the perfect guy to have do it. And, wow, man, I mean, you know, we kind of joked about that early on in the season because it always seemed like that there was something that would come about that would, you know, mechanical-wise, something goofy that would happen that would stop somebody from a perfect season, maybe having to stop and get a snack pack or something like that. But it didn't happen this year. I mean, it was just that one fateful day in the mud of Indiana that Walker came up short.
Well, Walker's definitely got on the mojo train right now. You know, we've seen it in the ATV XC1 class especially. You know, we had the balance train for so many years. Then we have the Borich train, and now we got the Fowler train. It doesn't come in, you know, 1 year. It comes in blocks a year.
But I got to tell you, there's not been a champion, at least of my recollection, that has been as dominant as what Walker Fowler has been. I mean,
well, Walker checks out and runs. That's the difference. Chris would play the game where he would bore you on the last lap.
Right.
He would just play the game and then stuff you on the last couple turns. Walker doesn't allow that. He just runs.
Right, and that could be part of the change that we're talking about because, you know, we saw that on the bike side of things a few years ago, the transition from that cat and mouse game that they used to play through the first half of the race, and then the last half or last third, you know, they'd go 2/3 of the race maybe, and then the last third they'd really start throwing down. And you're right, Walker kind of brought a whole different perspective to that. And with that, behind him comes a whole new group of riders that have the same mindset and mentality.
Well, they're going to have to change the way they play the game if they want to beat the leader. You know, before it was just who could stay in the front pack and then win the last lap or the last 2 laps when they played the cat and mouse game. Now the physical conditioning of the sport has changed.
Now,
you know, look at Stu Baylor on the bikes. There's a classic example. Those guys didn't train for a 3-hour sprint, and when Caleb came by, that changed things, and the bikes changed it. And now the quads are changing too. They have to train for a 3-hour race, not a 2-lap sprint.
Okay, and I hate to say it because I'm an avid fan of the maturing rider, but the old school rider, the old school way. And I'm not taking that's just the way it is. I'm not saying they're old, but you look at Adam McGill, you look at Chris Borich, you look at Jared McClure, you look at any of those guys that have been around prior to the arrival of Walker Fowler, their whole style is different. I mean, are they going to be able to adapt to make that change? I mean, or is it going to be what I've been saying through the entire fall, a season of change ahead of us?
No.
You don't think so?
No. Walker's going to start off just going as fast as he can until the checkered flag flies. If it's working for him, why change it?
But what about behind Walker? What about second, third, fourth, and fifth? Is it going to be the McClures? Is it going to be the Chris Boriches?
It doesn't matter what the name is behind him. They're behind him. they've got to find a way to get in front of him, and that ain't happening. I mean, I love all the racers. I mean, they're all my guys, my guys, but there's nobody out there that can give him an honest 2-hour race every round and fight for a championship.
They got to dig
deep. And that does a couple of things. It puts pressure on Walker, but Walker knows he's got all his cards are out. He knows what to do with them. Adam's going to give it hell, but he might win one or two here or there. But I think he even knows that his window's closing. Chris is still fast as grease lightning, but the same thing. He just doesn't have that snap he had 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, where he can flick the switch and catch somebody, run him down, pass him, and win the race. It might happen once or twice, but it's not going to happen often or consistent enough to give it. I just don't see anybody giving Fowler that honest run for that number 1 plate this year. Next year's a different year. Walker gets a year older.
Yeah, Walker gets a year old, and some of the younger kids are going to get a year older.
And they're going to learn off of Walker.
Yeah.
The same way Borch picked up speed from riding behind Bill, and so forth and so on. These guys, Walker's not giving him much of a chance to ride behind him.
No, he likes to check out.
Yeah, you can't. How are you going to learn what he's doing watching him race when you're a minute and a half behind him?
Well, that's going to be their goal, is to ride with him and force him to make mistakes. And that changes everybody's riding perspective. The question is can they catch up and ride with him and push him into mistakes?
It kind of puts you in the mindset of, what was it, Rocky IV, whenever Rocky was battling the Russian, Ivan or whatever, and it was kind of like a scientific old school against the old school style, and Rocky had to dig. I mean, in reality, it almost has to be, those guys have to really want it at this particular point to get it, to beat Walker, I think.
Wanting it's not enough. I mean, it's just like that goofy meme that's going around about, you want something as bad as you want the will to breathe, you'll obtain it. That's just not true. I'm sure McGill would like to have a championship before he hangs up his helmet. He may want it in the worst way, but does he have everything in place to give Walker Fowler a run? And I just don't think that he does. Not for an entire season. That's just the way it is.
It is going to be tough.
Well, all right. So exclude. Yeah, Walker is.
Walker can screw up. He's not, he's not unbeatable. But I think the only person who can beat Walker is Walker right now. And when you look over on the bike side, the only person that can you can't really say the same thing about Caleb, because Duvall can beat Caleb, but Duvall's got to stop beating himself.
Yeah. Well, he's gotten far better.
It's totally opposite between them the last year and maybe this year coming up, because Walker's got nobody that can run with him every round, and Caleb does. If Thad didn't get hurt, we may have seen Thad be the champion this year. It's that close. The skill level, the drive, determination, the parts are all in place. But on the ATV side, I just don't see it happening. 3 years. I think in 3 years is when you're going to see the next big change.
I'll put in my call for who's going to be the first one to give Walker a true run for his money.
Let me guess. I'm going to guess his initials are HH, right?
It's possible. If he quits growing, good Lord, he's going to be 7'7" by the time he gets to XC1. But the good news is he'll still only weigh about $120.
Yeah. So who was you going to say? Was I correct or?
Yeah, I think Hunter's going to be one of the next big things up there. As long as he stays healthy and stays on his program, I think he's got a lot to offer the program. But it's not going to be this year. It's not going to be next year. But it's going to be in the next handful of years. Yeah,
and you got guys like Devin Feehan. I think he's going to be a competitor, because I think he's shown just the last couple of years alone in and of itself in the battles that we've seen him with Hunter in the College A class and the XC2 Pro-Am class. This kid's he's as fast as Hunter. He won the XC2 championship, and those guys went at it nose to tail all season long. You guys know, you were out there, you watched it.
I agree. There's definitely a bunch of them that can do it. It's just how long can they keep their program and everything going in that positive direction.
That's a big part of it. Hunter does, just like Walker had up through his program. He has a very good support network with Ithaca Power Sports and stuff, recreation sports that his mom and dad owns, and they've got a lot of connections. And on top of not only that, he has as well earned it. I mean, plain and simple. There's no doubt about that. He's earned that recognition. He's earned the right to have that possibility laid out before him right now.
I agree.
But
that's why I threw it out there.
All right. Well, let's look at realistically second place next year. If Walker, let's take Walker out of the equation. Let's just say, okay, we're going to assume, and I hate to assume because when you assume, you make an ass of you and me, but I don't think we're going to be doing that this year. But we're going to assume that Walker is the dominant factor that he has been this past season and has been building into being. Behind him, we've got Bryson Neal, who came in number 2 in the points last year. Jared McClure, who's still a mainstay. And this guy, the sneaky snake, I don't think and Cobra, I don't think that those names could fit anybody any better because this guy, man, he hangs around. He's there laying in wait and ready to go. And then you got Chris Borich and Adam McGill rounding out the top 5. Just taking into account that top 5 right now, those guys right there, I mean, you've got Walker Fowler. A part of the new school then would be Bryson Neal in second, and then I think it would be, kind of you look at it, Chris Borich and Adam McGill, the older of the veterans there whenever you start looking at it from that perspective. The younger guys are kind of out on top right now as far as the overall top 3 that are in the XE1 Pro class right now.
I think you're going to see McGill have a little bit better season.
Yeah, he had mechanicals partway through the year. He was frustrated with the way his quad was riding, and if he were to shake the ghosts out and could get his game back on track, you probably would see a different McGill out there.
I agree.
Bryson, it's going to take work on Bryson's end to go back to doing every little bit of it himself. His own program. But there's a reason they're all in the top 5.
Yeah.
And it's close.
Yeah.
They're all good. They're all capable of winning, but they got to chase down Walker to do it.
That's right.
Right. That's the big thing. And then outside the top 5, LW, Landon Wolf, he moves up from, I think, 7th to 6th this year, if I'm not mistaken, overall in the standings.
We're not going to see him out there again.
4x4 Pro this year, right?
He's going 4x4 Pro. He got a Can-Am sponsorship.
Wow, I wondered about that, and I wondered if we might not see some of these other guys leaning towards that because that's the perfect fit for some of those guys that, that maybe, honestly, I mean, that's perfect.
I'll take a beer too, Ken.
But yeah, I mean, really, that I hadn't heard that for sure. I wondered that. What was it at Ironman that we actually saw him in the 4x4 Pro class, and I asked him that, and he said, "I'm not going to say that right now or anything." But I never thought more about that, to be honest with you.
From what I recall, Cunningham had a mechanical or a failure or a crash, something at Ironman, and Wolf actually won the 4x4 Pro class. So.
Wow, see how quick I forget, huh?
Darn, this age is sneaking up on all of us. See?
Wow. Yeah, look at mine. That's crazy. Well, that's good. Good for Landon. Marty Christofferson, he was a rookie last season. He actually, I think he did a great job. He held right in that 5, 6, 7 range that he was wanting to be in. I know he was really wanting to be a top 5. He comes away with 7th at the end, but I think that's a progression for him whenever you take a look at the big picture as well. I'm going to look at the overall top 20. I'm looking at class results right there.
Well, you got Cody Collier too, and Cody's was a rookie last year, I think, XC1. And,
actually, Hunter is number 7 overall, and Marty is number 8 overall. He was 7th in the pro class. But go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, Cody had something in his head last year. He didn't think in his own self that he could run with that top group. And then about midway through the year, he actually had a really good race, and he ran 3rd or 4th. Hey, nice shirt, Ken. Huh? Cody had a good race, and he ran up in like fourth. Yeah, he ran in like fourth place, and all of a sudden he figured out that he could do it.
Uh-huh.
And that, you saw a little bit of a turn in Cody. You know, he's a year older, he's a year mature. He's he'll have a little bit better program this year. And
Yeah.
I wish Cody good luck. He's a good kid. I like him.
I do too, and I think Cody was one of those guys that may have taken a step or two too quickly there at the very beginning. I think he kind of put himself behind the eight ball because he was so fast and he was doing so well. I think he may have put himself behind the eight ball kind of right there off the bat. I think he went straight to XC2 if I'm not mistaken, or something. Out of the morning or something like that, which was quite a bit for him to chew. He did well in his inaugural race, if memory serves me correct, and then the following season, obviously a championship is different than a race, and reality kind of set in, the trials and tribulations of a season set in for him, and it's taken him a little longer, I think, to get to where his actual potential is, but I think you may be right. I think you're onto something there.
Well, the young kids grow up. This isn't always the young kid game. It's not like the Supercross where these kids come out and the 18 and the 19-year-olds are the ones that fly pretty well a lot of times. This sport takes a little bit more of the maturing process, in my opinion. It's as much mind game as it is a physical game as well to win at GNCC. That's just my opinion.
I think you're right. What about Greg Covert? Greg Covert, if you're talking about fast, talk about fast. He's fast, and he's also got the heart for it. I mean, if you talk to this guy at all for very long, I mean, it don't take a minute to realize how pure this kid is, man. I mean, and where his mindset is and what he wants to do. And with that alone, the talent that you see with him on the racetrack and the heart that he has, you have to think that that's going to take him a lot of places.
I agree. I don't know him that well, so it's hard for me to speak on his behalf other than watching his results. But he's a fast kid. He was up there. He won XC1 the year prior to last, right? Or did he win again this year? This past season?
XC2.
XC2.
Yeah.
He won last season. He won last year, 2016, and then he was in the battle with those guys there in 17. But things kind of like he had a bad race or two and kind of lost sight of the points, but was still one of the guys to contend with when it came to winning and to racing in that class. So he stayed competitive all season long, even though he wasn't in the point race, so to speak, there at the end. But another guy that we haven't talked a whole lot about, I did mention his name there at the beginning. I said something about him being and I might have said it off mic, but Wesley Wolf, he's down in Texas from what I understand. I'm trying my best right now to get myself down there. There's like a whole slew of guys down at Green Acres Motocross Complex down there with Ford Brothers Racing, but Wesley Wolf happens to be one of those guys, and I think that Wesley might be a guy, we hyped up a lot last year, and everybody was really excited about him, and, he's doing the crossover. He was a rookie in both AMA Pro ATV. He was a rookie in GNCC. He had some really good runs in both sides, though he never did establish a true consistency toward right there at the very end. The very end of the season, we started seeing a good consistency, I think, in both series, and I'm thinking – maybe, he might have learned a lot last year, and his sophomore season might be a little bit more productive than maybe what we'll give him credit for, because we haven't really heard a whole lot of hype about him yet.
Well, you can't sell Wesley anything short of being one of the more exciting racers to watch, especially when he's down a little bit. He pushes like a wild man. He's exciting to watch right up to the point of impact, and that's what he's got to control. He's a great kid. Awesome kid. I want to see Wesley do really well. And he's another kid that if he could put a solid season with solid finishes together, he could be a force to be reckoned with. He's just got to hit that maturity stage where he hits a more constant finish.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Say something, Ken.
Yeah, Ken. I mean, I know. David said a whole lot, and I said a whole lot about him. But I mean, you too. You get to take a lot of pictures of him. You go to both series. You know his dad. You're acquainted with his family, and you got to have some insight on this kid, man.
But his dad cooks a real good hamburger.
And shrimp. He cooks good shrimp, too.
I'm normally off back to the hotel working by the time the shrimp comes out. But I agree with what's being said. The good thing is we're talking about 4, 5, 6, 7 riders deep. That is what we're going to be watching over the next 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, I'm one of the biggest ones that, I'm a Debbie Downer. I mean, ATV racing keeps taking its hits, especially on the motocross side. You got Wolf moving over. I think you're going to see a couple more guys next year probably move over to race 4x4 Pro. That's in my guts telling me that. If there's money in it, that's where they're going to go because they're realizing they're not making the money in the Pro class, which is going to do a couple things. It's going to boost up 4x4 Pro, but we're also going to open the door for new riders to come into XC1. And we're going to be talking about these same guys 3 to 5 years from now. And as long as, the good Lord willing, all of them stay healthy, all of them has a shot at being, no one will ever be the next Walker Fowler. But they've got a shot to get up there and battle for that number 1 plate at some point in their career coming up. Because Walker's not going to be able to race at that level for 10, 12, 15 years in a pro class. He might, but, he's not Johnny Gallagher.
That's true. I mean, there's not many people like Johnny, that's for sure.
There's only one,
JJ. Well, I'm just saying he's got the Energizer Bunny, but he's not racing at Walker's level every weekend as far as
right,
going for that overall win. So you got to look down the road a little bit. When Walker finally reaches his peak, and I don't think he has. I think this might be his peak year, maybe not, but. You've got some young guys coming up that are back when Walker was that age. Look at what he was doing. Now, they don't have his record, but again, he's bringing all those guys along.
Yep.
All of them. Fowler's laid the path work.
Now,
you're talking about Hunter Hart. He doesn't have big factory support. He doesn't have huge blown out of the water name sponsors. And that may be a key to how well you do in the pro class in the next 5 to 7 years. If industry support scales back a little bit more, the guys who are used to doing it on their own dime or with minimal support may end up being better off, at the end of the season because they've already been through those hardships. Like the guys back on the motocross side, they had the factory team, and they went away. And other than 1 or 2 popular names, the rest of them all fell back or dropped out because he just couldn't do it. And that's the same thing if guys don't want it to happen, but it's the same thing that can happen with that XC1 Pro class. So I'd be watching that. Who's got the money, who's got the support to keep them training. I mean, let's face it, Wesley Wolf, he's been in Texas for a while. He's been training all year long. What happens in 2 or 3 years when maybe he doesn't have the money or the will to stay out on the road most of his life just to train? We could be talking, he does great, or he could drop back. That's the thing. You never know with these guys. You never know what it's going to bring because there's no consistency to the salaries that they can pull off of.
Yeah, I'd like to see more. I'd like to see more salaries where these guys could actually make a living doing this sport.
And it's a broken record, guys. I mean, it really is. But Ken, I think you brought up a very good point there just a moment ago. And I mean, I hate to say it, and I mean, I'm going to do everything in the world that I can to help save and keep the sport alive and keep people interested in it, keep people coming out and everything. But the 4x4 side and the side-by-side thing is really where a lot of the money is going and a lot of attention is starting to turn there. Dude, I remember, people didn't pay attention to the 4x4 Pro class in the morning. People didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to the side-by-sides. The side-by-sides, the morning class, the 4x4 Pros, got people out there on the courses watching those races because they're so highly competitive, and I'm surprised that there aren't so many more competitors coming in because those are the readily available machines. I realize they got to race against factory guys. That makes it a little tougher whenever you're racing against factory Polaris and factory Can-Am and things like that. But, I mean, really, when it comes to sport quad availability, the 4x4 is a lot more available, and there you go. When you start looking professionally, that's where the money is.
That's right.
Now, am I the only one that thinks this? But I would love to see the pro 4x4 class run in the afternoon.
I've said
I
it.
personally would.
They about hung me for saying it. And one, it just makes my life easier.
Get them all at once.
Yeah.
There's.
I can argue that, hey, it's a 4x4 pro, it's a premier class. The morning's supposed to be for amateurs. It's supposed to get people into the sport. It's not supposed to go out there and get run down by pro factory teams.
Rodney again.
But then they tell me that the 4x4s won't take the abuse that the afternoon track offers. And I've raced in the afternoon before. It is brutal. So you got to trust in them. Never raced one of those machines, but you got to trust in what they're telling you.
Yeah, but I mean, they're part of the reason the track is so bad from the morning anyway. So I mean, you take away their.
Yeah, but here's something I was told a long time ago: the last lap of the morning race is usually the best lap of the afternoon race.
Really?
So it just goes downhill from there. The 4x4s may help run that course in, but when you go out there go out an hour after the race and just kind of walk around, you've got ruts up to your knees.
Oh, I know.
There's different lines because they can't get through here or there. I think the 4x4s have a heck of an advantage at that. But yeah, I would like to see it go the afternoon, but I can understand why it's not.
I think it would take away some from the morning race.
Oh, yeah.
You're already spreading people out so thin. I mean, look, people are trying to race 4x4 pro, then they're trying to race the Ace, or they have team members in the Ace, and they've got something going on in the afternoon, and then a side-by-side race. It is an insane.
Well, if for nothing else, if they move the pro 4x4 to the afternoon, it would help the morning because they run like 25 rows in the morning class, split rows, everything else, and they only run like 16 in the afternoon.
There you go. Take the WXC up there too.
I don't think you're going to see anybody, making a big effort to make that happen. And like I said, I've heard both sides of the argument. My plain and simple is just makes my life easier, and if that happens, it works for me.
I don't know how.
Imagine a real muddy race like Peru and having a 4x4 win the afternoon.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it would happen more often than you would realize, probably.
I mean, my personal opinion is if they're going to call them pros, they should be in the afternoon. But that's just my mindset from it. If they're going to be earning a living and doing all that, why wouldn't they be out there with less people on the track? In the afternoon.
Well, I've heard people, we get less TV coverage if we're in the afternoon. We get then on the other hand, we don't get enough TV coverage on 4x4 Pro. Everybody's got a foot on one side of the fight but at least we're all fighting for the same cause.
Yeah.
I agree.
There's a right answer, whether or not.
I was told a long time ago by a guy way up the chain to me. He said the guy on the ninth floor is always going to see more than the guy in the basement. So I have to just trust in what I'm told. I can have an opinion on it, but that means nothing.
Right.
I'm not the one. I push a button. That's my job. I'm a fan. I'm a fan first before I am any kind of, wanting to be the insider guy and help make things happen, because I just don't know enough about the ticks and talks of the business side of that. So, I could say something's completely off base and everybody's like, oh, he's a jerk. He wants to move to the afternoon. But I agree. I would love to see it. Everything keyed in on the afternoon, but I don't think it'll happen.
Yep. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I'm kind of torn between it myself personally. I know that there is a right answer out there. At times you got to wonder, is a third day necessary? Is it necessary? Should we be splitting these up? ATVs one weekend, bikes the next. I mean,
no,
I hate.
I
know.
I started saying this in the last year when it was side-by-side weekends. It almost needs to be a 3-day event where you race. I don't care how you divvy it up, but
Ace and side-by-side on Friday.
Yeah, and a lot of people would be like, no, well, that's can't do that. You can't do that. There is so many events and race series over this whole country that race on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Don't tell me it can't be done.
Yeah, the only thing would be timing on Friday. I mean, especially in the early part of the year, and that's the bad thing about it, because when we have days where we could run, say, starting at 6 and 7 and run till 8 o'clock at night, we aren't racing then because that's our summer break.
Well, and then you're talking about having to push people into, the scoring crew would all have to be there a full day early. I would have to be there a full day early. Everybody that works there isn't normally there on Friday to do anything really to do with the racing would have to be there. It's logistics that are involved. But I'm glad that it's big enough that we're even talking about that.
Right, exactly.
We could be talking about maybe this should be a one-day event. It's not a national, it's a regional size series. GNCC just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. But yeah, I think they're going to have to do something, because when you roll out of the hotel at 5:30 in the morning and you don't get back to the hotel till 9:30 at night because you're covering the race, you're taking the pictures, you're doing this, you're doing that. I just witness and see how it makes for a miserable weekend for a lot of people. You can see it. It's like, man, it's that side-by-side weekend. Oh my God, it's just,
I can tell you.
Yeah. And it's not just me.
Right.
It's a lot of the racers.
By the end of the day, man, at 6 o'clock at night, it's supper time, man. It's time to head for the mountains. It's time to kick your shoes off. It gets tough sometimes, but at the same time, you don't. From my standpoint, working the races, I don't want to give anybody any less, no matter how tired I am. So I try to give them as much as I possibly can. I know that everybody else does too, and we've done a real good job about trying to divvy everybody's job up so it works out a little better like that. But at
some point, you as a business, you realize that you're giving your customer less value because you're trying to give them more.
Right. Well,
so,
I don't think we've hit.
That goes back to the ninth floor basement thing. I can only go off what I see when I talk to people, the feedback that, they tell me. And it's nothing negative. It's just like, oh, my God, I'm wore out. This is supposed to be fun. And it's like, well, yeah, but this is also a national series, man.
I think we need to start doing night races. Strap headlights on those bad boys, and let's take them night racing. That's what I say. Let's have fun. Let's make it a true East Coast Woods Series, man, because if you're an East Coaster, you know how to ride through the woods after dark, man. I'm telling you, I've done a lot of mud running myself over the years, and I know.
Ken is going to reach through there and smack you in a minute. He does not want night racing.
I'm already getting more out thinking about the side-by-side rounds.
Hey, it's only the first two, isn't it? And then we go back to minis. I'm number one. Did you see that?
That's all that. He loves you, man. He loves you. Well, guys,
it is. I know that everybody that I work with, Rodney and everybody else, they want to give the people that come there the best time they can have.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets lost when every single person is just worked to the bone. That goes for people that run their mouth all day, people take pictures all day, people that constantly put up ribbons all day. Everybody that works a race, it makes for a long weekend. I just hope that they and we never lose sight of there's got to be a good fun aspect to it, because if it becomes all business and all work, then it doesn't have the same history the next 25 years as it did the last 25 years.
Family and fun.
Amen. And I think that that's the great thing about the true nature of GNCC. That's what it's based and founded on. I think that's what we've got there, and I hope that it stays that way, and I think that it will continue to do so. And guys, we've been on here a long time. I didn't expect for this track. It's instead of a preview, it's been more of a smack type episode, track smack, which I think is maybe what we ought to call it, because that's what it is anyway. But any parting shots before I let you guys go? Ken, I'll let you go first, since you're the elder statesman. Look like you need to go to bed, Grandpa. all.
I have a certain look for the public, and this is I'm tired, worn out, leave me the hell alone look.
Oh, okay.
As soon as he's done here, he takes a shower and goes out till 3 or 4 this morning. He'll be clubbing in Blackshear.
I've got some pictures of a deal that went down the parking lot earlier. I'll have to share you guys. But no, I mean, it's fun to talk about, but right now it's still a bunch of what ifs. Nobody really knows. There's riders that have things to be let loose that we're going to find out in the next week, 10 days, that could change whatever we've talked about. The series, in general, the people love to be secretive. That's cool. Like I said, I'm a fan first, so I like getting news the same as everybody else does. I don't like knowing anything.
I'll throw this out there. I love surprise, too. So all you people that are out there, racers, if we didn't talk about you or if we didn't give you the props you deserve, come out and surprise us. Give us some more fun to talk about, because we will talk about it if you do
Don't
it.
surprise me.
Yeah. Surprise me and Rodney, but leave Ken out of it.
That's it.
You don't yell Aloha snack bar near me. You don't yell man with a gun. You don't wear, is that guy's wife. Those are the things you don't say around.
Honey, I'm home.
Well, I'll tell you guys, my parting shots here tonight is that, last year I felt a season of change coming on through the off season. I think there's been changes more than we're even aware of right now. I think we're on the verge of we talked about the new era. Well, the change is all coming now with that new era being born, and we're all going to be a part of it in some way, shape, or form. And I think it's going to be a good thing. I'm excited to see what the future brings from the GNCC XC1, XC2, the 4x4 Pro, the side-by-sides, which we didn't even get a chance to talk about tonight. But I'll tell you, there's a lot going on there in GNCC off-road that if you haven't become a fan yet, you certainly need to do so. And it wouldn't take long to be a fan. So I encourage for you to certainly follow along with that. We're not far out from round number 1. I'm excited for that, and I hope that we'll see you guys down there, man.
I'll be there.
Did you see the news about the Monster model?
Yes.
Today?
Yes, Monster.
I'm waiting for the Budweiser bottom. There's a bottom section at every race. It needs to be the Budweiser bottom with a beer cart and beer tent.
There you go. That's your place.
That's what I'm pushing for.
Yeah, the Monster Mild, that's going to be something new. Monster Energy actually coming on board with GNCC this year. I'll let GNCC talk a whole lot more about that, but we'll talk more about that. Guys, thanks for being on board. We'll probably join again and talk a little bit of side-by-side stuff once we get a little more details on that. We'll definitely be back to talk some ATV motocross stuff, all right? In the meantime, I want to thank you guys for being on board.
Thank you, guys. See you guys soon.
All righty, that's Pappy Ken Hill. That's Digital Dave, the Tire Changer Dave Smith. I'm Rodney Tomlin. This is Quad Radio.